Hello, my beautiful people. Now, I know it's been a while. I always say this, but it has been a while since I've been on here and since I've truly shared my journey and the things that I've learned. Let's just say over the last year or two, I have been through some experiences and have been teaching and molding and using my experience to help others like myself get through traumatic situations, get through diving deep within themselves, learning themselves, understanding themselves, and just finding their voices. Over the last month, I would say last month, I lost my baby. I was 5 months pregnant and I lost my son. And I've been through a lot in my life, and I believe I've shared a lot of it on here and with you. I've been through sexual abuse, molestation, abuse. I've been through manipulation to the highest degree, narcissism. I've been through a whole lot. And I've, found ways to heal using um, meditation, affirmations, journaling, vocal exercises. Funny enough, yes, vocal exercises. For those of you who don't know, I sing. I used to sing. Well, I still do. I sing. I perform. I was a performing artist mainly, and I studied opera and vocal mastery. And I found that certain techniques took me within my body, within my mind, and helped me to find the clarity I need to hear my intuitive self, to make the right decisions and to move forward, and to help me find my voice, to find who I am, to get into poetry. I started writing from that space. I started to really know my voice. I remember growing up and being compared to people because of, we live in a society where if you don't sound a particular type of way, if you don't sound like Whitney Houston, Patti LaBelle, Aretha Franklin, if you can't sing them songs and be that belter, you are not considered a singer. And it really, really took a toll on me. Whereas my self confidence and my belief in self was so low, my self worth was so low. If you don't look a particular way, if you don't sound a particular way, you are not valued, you are not seen as somebody important. And it really messed with me, so much so that it messed with my vocals and I damaged my vocals. I was doing recordings. I was supposed to be meeting with an A&R or working with an A&R in Georgia, and I keep getting chronic tonsillitis. And then eventually, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember my ENT telling me that I can't sing for a while. I needed to go on vocal rest. And every time I go back to him, it was like, oh, you need 3 more months. You need 3 more months. You need 3 more months. And eventually, over a year to 2 years passed. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I needed to do vocal therapy. And I tried everything to get myself back, to get my vocals back, and it wouldn't work. And what really got me back into myself was spirituality. I started doing meditating. I started journaling. I started asking myself real hard questions to get deep within my subconscious mind to help me to process what is happening. And this wasn't because of my vocals, this was mainly because of me. I wanted to heal from the experiences that I had. I wanted to heal from my sexual abuse. That was the biggest one. I wanted to heal from my sexual abuse and not feel like a victim anymore, not respond in negative ways, because I found that I was really moving wild and not really digging deep within myself. I was messing with relationships. My behaviors were, not who I know myself to be or the person that I want to be. And I was like, you know what, I need to really dig deep within myself. So I started, digging deep into my spirituality, into my spirit, into my soul, to try to see who I am, why I'm being this way, where is this coming from, and asking myself these hard questions. And even when the answer was so far, far, far in the back of my mind, or it come a little bit and it disappear, I always sat within myself and tried to figure it out. What I started doing was doing certain humming, doing certain vocal breath techniques, and that also helped me to process um, myself, process my behaviors, quiet my mind, pay attention to my thoughts so that I can then dig deeper. And I was able to journal and write and do my poetry. I found poetic ways to write how I was feeling and what was going on in my mind. And eventually, I found myself healing. My voice healed. I no longer felt like I had big rocks in the back of my throat and I can sing. I no longer felt sick all the time. When I went to the ENT, everything in my vocal cords were amazing. I used to suffer with PCOS. When I got my blood work done, eventually, that with a good diet, of course, eventually I didn't have any issues with PCOS or any cysts anymore. And this was due to not just me digging deep within myself and learning and facing my traumas and learning how I felt and why I felt this way and looking at my behaviors and how, what happened to me as a child or what happened to me in my past affected the behaviors and affected the things that I did. But this also helped me to really process my thoughts, process who I was. And that's where the healing began. I keep hearing this thing about time heals, time heals, time heals. And I can tell you from my experience that I went through years and years and years in my life, not really looking at my trauma, not really looking at my abuse, not really looking at these things that happened to me, and just living life, actually forgetting some of the things that happened to me. They were there, but it wasn't to the forefront. And it didn't heal. It more did more harm to me than it did good. I believe that sitting and facing the problem, first acknowledging that this happened to you, acknowledging what happened to you and how you felt, what it did to you, how it affected you, understanding that it happened, understanding your emotions, and accepting that it happened aids in the healing. I don't like to hear this time heals, time heals, time heals, because I don't believe that just time alone heals. I know many of people who are in their 50s and their 60s that had traumatic situations happen to them as a child. And right now their behaviors are a product of those traumatic situations. And because they don't think about what occurred, they don't think about what happened, for them is like, oh, it's no longer there. The problem is still there. It's still sitting in the back of your mind. And whenever somebody do something, and it may not be as drastic as what happened to you as a child, whenever somebody do something slight that push that trigger a little bit, or say something that push that trigger a little bit, then the behaviors, the product of what wasn't healed, come to the forefront. And then you always hear people say, this is me. This is me. I can't take when people talk to me a certain way. Da, 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 da. That's not the situation. The situation is that you hurt. The situation is that you're wounded. The situation is that your wounds haven't been healed. It hasn't been cleaned. It hasn't been disinfected. It hasn't been treated. The scab is over it, but the problem, the bacteria, the infection still sits there. And then you respond as a product to it. It spreads in your behavior, it spreads in your value, it spreads how you treat yourself, it spreads in how you treat other people around you. So to say that time heals, time is not just a product, or not is not just a process in healing. Sitting with the problem, allowing yourself to feel the feels. Like, really, I remember when I first actually felt what happened to me as a child, the sexual abuse. I was 18 years old and I was sleeping and I had this dream. As I tell you, spirit has a way of bringing these things up, because you come here, you are here and you're left to heal from these things, to move past these things. These experiences happen for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So to sit and say that just time heals and just leave it alone, that doesn't work. I remember, like I was saying, I was 18 years old and I was sleeping. I've never cried throughout my whole time of the sexual abuse and what happened before and after. I never cried. And one night, I just jumped up out of my sleep and I was boo-hoo crying when I realized that my innocence was taken away. When I realized that I was in a relationship and I didn't know how to love. When I realized I didn't know how to have an intimate relationship with people because of what happened to me. When I realized that my idea of sex and intimacy and love was warped because of what happened to me. When I tell you I boo-hoo cried, I boo-hoo cried. I cried for times on end. And luckily for me, I had somebody that I was in a relationship with at the time that was able to hold me and allow me and give me that support and that space to really, really let it go. That's when things started to change. That's when I started to pay more attention to me. That's when I started to look at myself and notice really bad patterns. How, I didn't really love in myself. I hated my body. And in the same token, even though I hated how I look, because how I look is what attract these people to me to do these things to me, it felt like the only way that people could see me and love me is by me showing my curves and showing my figure and putting myself out there. You know, it's amazing what not really looking at traumas and not really healing could do to you. That's why I do not like that saying that time heals. Time alone doesn't heal. Sitting with the incident, sitting with the trauma, looking at it, understanding the emotion, understanding what occurred, being present in that moment, it hurts. It really, really hurts. It doesn't feel good at all. It is painful. It is more painful than the actual act that happens. I can tell you that firsthand because, like I said earlier in the video, I've been through a lot. And over these next few weeks, I am going to talk to you about my experiences because I promised when I came up with Kimmy's journey, my promise to myself and my promise to you was to share my experiences and how I have learned, how I've grown from these experiences and what it did to help me. And I promise over these next few weeks and onward, I will continue to share my experiences and the things that I did to help me through this. And today, the lesson is, if you've been through a traumatic situation, I ask you to really sit, look at it, remember the situation. If you need to have support, and I always recommend having support through this, especially if it's something that is real traumatic because it could really affect you. Reach out to a therapist. Reach out to a mental therapist, a counselor, a spiritual teacher, somebody that you trust that can hold that space for you to be able to just let it out, to be able to just allow it to just move through you. Allow it to just be there and be present because you need to face it. If you have a life coach, a counselor, a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that and you know that you can handle this and you know that this is important, journal it. Journal it, write it. Ask yourself, how did I feel in that moment? How has this incident affected me? How does it affect me now? That is what I started doing. I started journaling. Every time I felt somewhere, like I said, I use poetry and I use music to help me through my situation. I would sit and I would write and I would boohoo cry as I write. I would look for a song, or I might be in the shower and I might hear a song and it remind me of a situation that has occurred to me, or the chords just sit deep within me. And as I start to sing, I start to cry. And when I start to cry, then I start to say, oh my God, this reminds me. Why am I crying? That's what it was. Why am I crying? And then, oh my God, it reminded me of this that happened to me and how I felt. This particular song, this particular melody, these particular words sit deep within me. That's why I use music as one of my ways to heal. Because music, the vibration of music is healing. It can affect you in positive and negative ways. Depends on the words, depends on the chords, depends on the vibration, depends on the intent. So I sit within that moment and I'm like, why is this affecting me? And then I start to remember, okay, well, this particular card reminds me of this time. And I start to really look at the time and feel the feels and speak on how I feel. I feel this way. And like I said, I write it. Sometimes I would sing it. Sometimes I would call my friend. I'd be like, this is what happened. I would send my best friends a voice note. Boy, I was in the shower and I remember this happened to me, and I just boo-hoo crying because I need to get it out. And then after I get it out, then I feel so much better. I have clarity. Then I understand how it affects me. like my behaviors. I'm telling you, when you process and you activate that healing part within yourself, because we all have healing within us. When you activate that healing part within yourself, your spirit starts to show you, okay, this happened to you, but these are the things that you've been doing as a product of this. Now we got to change this behavior. We got to change how we look at people, certain people. We got to change how we look at ourselves, the things that we tell ourselves, the things that we do to ourselves. So, my beautiful people, I ask you to really sit within yourself. Find some, even if it is that you don't want to talk to somebody, like I mentioned before, journal it, meditate, ask yourself, certain questions. My thing is to get you deep within yourself, get you looking and finding your voice, using the same techniques that I've used over these last few years that helped me to be the person that I am today and to access the healing that I needed. My name is Kimberly Grimes. I'm an intuitive coach. If you need any more information, you can click the link in my bio. Have a beautiful day, my beautiful people, beautiful night, beautiful week, beautiful weekend. Whenever you see this, have a wonderful time. Odabo.